Welcome to the class. Today we're going to be talking about how to choose and execute a long and short-term photo project in essay form. We're going to be talking very deeply about the photographic essay, its birth, its history, some practitioners. I'm going to show you some examples, and what you're going to get out of this is that in the end you're going to be producing more meaningful work. Also, we're going to talk about how you present your work, which is really key. So I'm David Brommer. I run Suspect Photography LLC. I'm a photographer my entire life. I love photo education. I ran the gallery called Suspect Photography in Seattle in the 90s. It was a studio and it was a gallery. And then I came to New York City and I got a job at the incredible B&H Photo, where I led its education efforts and its conferences for many years, 26 years. Now I'm out on my own. This is Suspect Photography, and I'm bringing you guys lessons to help you actually become better photographers. What I specialize in is fringe humanity. I like to explore historic landscape, and I like alternative culture, and I like to document that. I'm also a hell of a camera whisperer. I've helped out tons of people, including Academy Award-winning actors like Alan Arkin. I speak cameras. I can let you know just what you need to get the job done. I do believe that there is a relationship between the camera itself and the work that you produce. You're in the middle of that, but it starts off with the camera equipment, then it comes to you, and then it comes to the final project. So camera whispering, choosing the right equipment, I'm always available to help you out with that. Really what I love to do is just kind of share what I figured out over the years. I've been working with a lot of professional photographers. I've been a professional photographer. I've been a gallerist. I really know and love photography, and that's what Suspect Photography is all about. So I'm glad you're here. Let's move on to the program today. So a photographic essay is a form of visual storytelling. It's a way to present a narrative through a series of images. So the whole concept starts off in the 1920s in Germany, where some German artists start arranging photographs and putting paste-up words next to each other. Kind of shows up in posters, it shows up in some really primitive early magazines. But then in France, really takes off with it. View magazine, VU magazine. They're published from 1928 to 1940. Notice 1940, why they stopped publishing, because of the German invasion. But however, is the first large weekly that goes out systematically to the whole world. What it does is it presents photographs in essay form, and really it's the proto-magazine. View magazine is really regarded as one of the first magazines. So that dominates for a while. It's actually really taking this new art form and showing photography to the masses. Mind you, it's the late 1920s and 30s. There is no internet, so the print is very important, and how that print gets published and brought around. 10 years of this, and all of a sudden we have Life magazine launches its first inaugural magazine in 1936. Now, Life is super important to photography and the photo essay and working with multiple images, because Life has, first off, the ability to broadcast in the English language, publish very widely. View magazine is in French, and if you don't speak French, you're probably not gonna read it. But Life magazine is very accessible. The first episode, the first magazine, the first issue of Life magazine is a feature by Margaret Burke White. Margaret Burke White is an incredible American woman photographer, and what she sent out to do is photograph these power dams that are in these Montana power dams that are part of the New Deal. The New Deal is Roosevelt's way for us to crawl out of the Depression and really set the course for America moving forward. What they do is the government funds artists to go, first off they fund things to be built, and then they fund artists and photographers such as the FSA, the Farm Administration, to go out and actually document this work during this very energetic time as we rebuild after World War I and of course the Depression. So Margaret Burke White, she's pretty cool. She's working in Life, which has an office in New York City, and there's 4 photographers on staff in this office. The offices here are Thomas McAvoy, Peter Stockpole, and then a photographer that I'm sure we've heard about, Alfred Eisenstadt. So what's going on with Margaret Bourke-White is that she's taking this photojournalistic approach. However, she's imbuing it with fine art. She goes and she does this architectural photography of the dams, and it's presented in essay form. Of course, think about the energy that's going on, because this office in New York City has these amazing photographers, looking at Alfred Eisenstadt. Alfred Eisenstadt is a very important photographer. He documents the World War II era, also the 50s, the 60s, and he's very keen, and he does one of this photograph, which is just so beautiful, the sailor kissing the nurse on VJ Day in Times Square, becomes very important. So what happens with Life magazine is that Life magazine just takes photography and propels it forward. If you're younger, you may not know the importance of Life magazine. If you're older and you grew up through Life magazine, and I'm talking actually older than I am, into the greatest generation, this was the way the communication was done. And they also did it so boldly, as you can see from these covers of Life magazine during the 1930s. They're covering stories, they're featuring photography and words in a way that just brings an illumination across America and the world. Now, things get really interesting in 1948. Life magazine photographer W. Eugene Smith spends 23 days chronicling a rural photographer in Kremling, Colorado. This Kremling, Colorado is about a 400-mile span that this doctor has to cover the area, and W. Eugene Smith goes out to this location and spends 23 days and very close with the doctor, and presents a photo essay that changes the game. In many ways, there's a lot of contributors that move up to photojournalism, but photojournalism sort of has a timeline where its beginnings happen, and then we get to W. Eugene Smith, and then we have photojournalism afterwards. Allow me to show you this work, which is really quite incredible. So this is Dr. Ernest Serrani. He's making a house call on foot. Evidently he doesn't drive. He relies on locals to help him with transportation to get to the patients. He is a generalist, and he is the lone physician serving this 400 square mile area of the Rocky Mountains and Enclave. So here he is making his house call. He's got his doctor's bag. At this point, he's inside a patient's home. This patient suffering with a flu influenza. You can tell from that roll of toilet paper, which is serving as tissues. And W. Eugene Smith is just documenting everything about this doctor doing the work. Interesting point is that when Country Doctor is going on, W. Eugene Smith shot for a period of time with no film in his cameras, and it helped the Dr. Serrani get used to his presence without being able to waste film. So he really hangs over this guy, and wonder if the doc knew if he was taking those pictures or not, but he didn't want to waste that film. So this is over the 23 days he documents this very busy doctor. In this case, this is a traveler who is traveling from Chicago to California, and she has some mild heart issues, and Dr. Serrani actually is giving her a shot of morphine in their own car as they pass through this area of Colorado. Look at how close he gets in to the subject, and you can just clearly see everything that's going on. I just like to point out, look at the hands in this image. You've got a triptych. You got three hands right up on the arm where the needle's going in, and then even the little boy playing with that little string in his hand. Such an amazing photograph. So the doc is very busy, but the locals decide to give him a treat, and they bring him out to a river that's accessible via a light rail line. It's connected to a quarry. So they bring him out, and of course W. Eugene Smith accompanies him on this outing and documents him doing his beloved fishing. But evidently 33 minutes into the fishing trip, an emergency occurs, and Dr. Serrani is called back to a farmer that has had a horse kick a 3-year-old girl, a very young girl. what a horrible thing, and he's got to take off and go there. So at this point, they're at the what I believe to be the kitchen of the little girl's, the farmer's house. They got the girl on the table, and Dr. Serrani is trying to help out what's going on, and we have the distraught farmer, mother and father off to camera left. I just want to take for a moment here that he might be shooting with probably like a Pan X film, which is around a 100 ISO. They were calling it ASA back in these days, and this is just not ideal lighting, but I believe he's shooting with probably a Leica, and he manages to get this shot. But this is the part where Eugene Smith's, what he did to photojournalism, what he did to the photo essay, is that he imparts a humanism. He's a humanist. And this is really a very poignant image. This is the image where the doctor has now done all he can for the girl. He stitched up the upper part of her eye. However, he now needs to tell the farmer's parents that the child is going to lose the eye, and they need to go to the hospital in Denver to properly remove the eye. But don't forget, he's a generalist. He's a physician. He's not a surgeon. So this is pretty heavy duty, especially an eye surgeon. I don't think I've ever seen a photograph with really much more emotion than this. It's a heavy photograph, and Eugene Smith is just an amazing photographer, and he captures it. So he's a quite important guy. The way it works out is that he was photographing with the Marines in the 1940s. The Marines in going across the South Pacific on their way to Japan, and he is in Okinawa, and he takes a hit from shrapnel, and he leaves the battlefield, and he has to spend about a year doing a year recuperating from his wounds. As a note as well, it was noted that he was a very brave journalist. The Marines loved him because he would travel with them to right to the front lines, and he would be right there getting the work. When he's recuperating, he makes this image, and this is an amazing image. It's in 1945. He shoots it, and it's called The Walk to Paradise Garden. It's a symbol of mankind's long-awaited emergence from the darkness and depression and war, and it really became one of the best-known photographs of the century. So that's Eugene Smith. And I also want to just quote out to you that the Life editor, David Sherman, the way he actually elaborates on our Eugene Smith calls him magnificent. He says he had all the requirements. He evoked drama and emotion. He told what was going on. He was exciting. He was artistic. And it was a painterly point of view that he came from. And that really made him a good artist. However, it is noted that Eugene Smith was impossible as a person. He was so sure of himself and so indignant. Anybody didn't allow him to do what he wanted. He must have been quite what we would say nowadays a piece of work. But what Smith wanted was a purity. He wanted to sink into the heart of the picture. I want to stop this for everybody here. I want to say, sink into the heart of the picture. What more can you say about imbuing life into your photograph if you're able to sink into the heart of the picture? You can't deny the importance of Eugene Smith. He really transcends time, and even though he's has passed on, recently there was a feature film called Minamata, which starred Johnny Depp. It was actually shot before the pandemic, and then the release date was held over during the pandemic, and then it kind of got a little messed up because Johnny Depp was having some big legal issues, you may recall. So the film sort of slipped in under the radar, but it is a quintessential photographer's film. Covers the 1971 photographer Eugene Smith travels to Minamata, Japan, a coastal city ravaged by mercury poisoning. Ushered by an impassioned translator and encouraged by local villagers, Smith's powerful images expose decades of gross negligence. He's a humanist. He covers problems. He brings them to light so that they can be solved. Good film. Johnny Depp does a great job. He kind of really, you didn't see Johnny Depp. He just fully became Eugene Smith. So I highly recommend go check out that film. It's quite beautiful. Time magazine then sort of picks up and really brings it forward from where Life took it. Time, Life, Look magazine, these were all important magazines where the photo essay was being featured. This is just to show you, like in the 2000s as the internet is really firmly in there, how the photo essay has now morphed into these online experiences, online magazines. Go on an American road trip with the world's greatest photographers. A new book maps the history of the American road trip. So this project by Miles Little, it kind of brings together an online presence and a book. Inside the Beslan school siege 10 years on. 10 years after the Beslan school siege, photographer Diana Markosian made these remarkable photographs of former hostages at the site where 330 captives were held. So this is the photo essay, just kind of moving forward into the future from where we are now. And I want to bring up a very good discussion and say to you, what can be the photo essay in today's world? How is this work shown to the world? Well, the way that we present the photo essay nowadays is through website, it's through a blog post. We could do it on Instagram. It could be a story, it could be reels. Ideally, in a beautiful sense of it, it can be a book. Books are also photography books that feature very heavy into photos. Can also be called monographs. They could be a portfolio, a straight up portfolio of images. Those images could be put into a box, could be put into a presentation case, could put into a slip-in portfolio. Also the exhibition. I think the gold standard would be a gallery show. What photographer doesn't want to have a gallery show? So a gallery is very pertinent and important. Also, you can show your work in cafes. I just recently, in a Joe Cafe, I put up my work there. I was getting coffee, their work, the walls were bare. I asked the manager, I had photographs ready to go in storage, put up a show. It was actually the Seattle Suspects. So it's good for exposure, get it out there. Also, you can do public spaces. So public spaces can be, it can be just any open area that's hopefully maintained. Now you can also think outside the box. Now when I say outside the box, I mean going into doing a zine, which is a magazine essentially. It's a print-on-demand magazine. You can make zines at the Kinko's copiers. You can do things like that. You can make them online. You can take your photographs and make street poster art. So make your photographs and you can then put them up, tape them up on walls and places. You also could do projections. You could take the work and you could project it onto a wall, and as people go by, see the work. I like projections. If you have an area that does an art walk, imagine this. Imagine taking a projector, one of those portable Goal Zero batteries, your laptop, setting it up and just projecting onto a wall, a wall of a building that's in the traffic of the art night. Very interesting. Or you can really just kind of use all the above to project your photo essay, your ideas onto the actual world. Okay, so we've discussed the history of the photo essay, where it came from. We kind of showed the father of it, Eugene Smith, and of course Margaret Burke-White, Eisenstadt. I want to show you some personal work now. This is a project called Battlefield Cant. Battlefield Cant consists of photographs from the European battlefields of World War II and prose from the soldiers who fought there. The two words, battlefield, is basically, I'm approaching it like landscape photography, but however, that was always a piece of landscape that a battle was fought on. And can't, this isn't, not that you can't do something and not that you cannot. Can't is as a word that describes a secret language among those who know. So it's sort of like a cant is a sort of speaking in code, so to speak. So Battlefield Cant brings these images together. This one we're looking at now is my triptych. It's the Normandy triptych. It shows the three actions of the Americans. On the left we've got Dog Green Sector. This is Omaha Beach. And then in the center we have Pointe du Hoc, where the Rangers came up, and then we have Utah Beach, the three landings, and it's presented on a platinum palladium. You can see the numbers on the bottom of the print are the different combinations. There's a little bit of gold in there, there's platinum, there's palladium. So I'm able to take these photographs, and I shot them with an 8x10 camera. The 8x10 camera allowed me to make these beautiful contact prints for them. So this is Omaha Beach, dog green sector, made famous by Saving Private Ryan. This is the opening scene in Saving Private Ryan, that they have to cross this beach, and those are the hills up on top. The other landing beach is Utah. Utah was they had a much easier go at it at Utah than they did at Omaha Beach. And then wouldn't be complete without showing you what the Germans saw. This is the view from the bunkers up on the hills. And I would ask you to imagine for a moment here, looking out, seeing a tremendous armada heading towards the beach, and then of course just opening up with machine guns on that armada as they came in. Very poignant. This is Pointe du Hoc. The Rangers had to climb up the hills here at Pointe du Hoc to get at their target, which was artillery that was raining down on the beaches, the other landing beaches. These hills are. This was very tough to climb up this and perform it while the Germans were shooting down on them and tossing grenades. If you're a fan of Band of Brothers, this is kind of a famous part of Easy Company, the 501st Airborne. This is a major action for them, where they had to take out some German howitzers, artillery that was raining down on the beaches as well. In these bluffs, there were 4 German gun emplacements, 88s, that the Easy Company, the boys of Easy Company, took out. This is a detail of something that's very iconic. It's the Sherman tank. I think it would have been very easy to come back and photograph the whole tank, but coming in on this little detail is nice. Again, shot with 8x10 camera. This is an interesting photograph. This is taking place inside the church in Saint Mare en Glace. The story goes that there were some Germans came running in and asked the priest to hide them, and the priest said, "You can hide in the refectory," and then the priest ran out and found some paratroopers and told them that there were Germans in the church. The soldiers, the airborne soldiers, went in, and they got into a firefight with the Germans, and this was a stray bullet, hit a glass encasing of a saint that was in the Saint Mare en Glace church. And now people roll up their wishes or their prayers and put them through the hole, and below that hole there's a pile of little prayers written up. But I just think it's just poignant with a saint with her hand over her heart and that bullet. These were bunkers that were along the seawall. This was part of the fortress wall that Hitler had built. They were very tough. Because you're launching a massive invasion, this is what's called a Surrey dock, and they built very quickly, the Army Corps of Engineers built these docks so that quickly ships could unload cargo and men and feed them into Europe as they began the war from there. The project would eventually, I wanted to continue the project and photograph in a couple of other places in Europe, and so I started a Kickstarter in 2011. The Kickstarter was very successful. I set a low goal of $3,000, and I ended up was able to pledge out just over $4,000. And I just have a little slide on the side there. It just shows you the some of the rewards. And there was a thank you note with a signed 4x6 pigment print right from the printer there. And then it was a glass vial that I brought back sand from Omaha, Utah landing beach to match the print. It was fun. Also, this was an early Kickstarter. Kickstarter is pretty ambiguous now, but it was quite good. But the other part about this project, which is really cool, again, it was photographed in 2011, but in 2024, this year, I'm going to take it to 2 more places, and I want to show you what I got going on here. I'm going to a tabletop wargaming convention, and that's called Adepticon. It's in Chicago. I've been going since 2007. I'm an avid tabletop wargamer. The convention has grown. There's about 5,000 people go to it now, and they have their own section called the Historicals, and it actually outgrew the one hotel that's in Schaumburg. It's right across the street in another hotel, and the guys are into historical wargaming. They're very interested in this work. So I've printed a new portfolio. I'm calling it the Adepticon edition. And what it is it's this work. It's Battlefield Cant. And these are printed with this printer over here. These are small prints on pigment paper. To include, I didn't want to do a vial, but if you can see right over here, we've got some of the sand that matches the respective beach glued into the print. I would also just want to let you know that the Battlefield Camp part, the part where there's a prose, I just want to read to you here on it would be this print. It's Omaha Beach, and Omaha Beach, Dog Green Sector. I started out to cross the beach with 35 men, and only 6 got to the top. That's all. Second Lieutenant Bob Edlin. This is Utah Beach. I matched this prose from Brigadier General Theodore Roosevelt. We'll start the war from here. Actually, they got blown off course a little bit, and General Theodore Roosevelt, this is the grandson of Teddy Roosevelt, is like, we're going to start the war from here. Fortitude. Those guys had fortitude. Okay, and then I'm going to show you one more. This is the Point to Hawk, and what at Point to Hawk, you can see it in the image on the far left. There's a spire, an obelisk pointing up, an arrow, and this is a closer up shot of it. This was done at the anniversary. President Reagan was at the anniversary. I believe it was the 40th anniversary. And President Reagan said, "These are the boys of Point to Hawk. These are the men who took the cliffs. These are the champions who helped free a continent. These are the heroes who helped end a war." So matching the prose with the images, I think, is very important. And what I like is that it's going to live on. This June 6, 2024 is going to be the 80th anniversary of D-Day, and I have it in my mind to go down to the War Museum, the World War II Museum in New Orleans on June 6th, and present this work. I don't know, maybe I'll sell it outside on the street on a table. Maybe I'll make some contact with the museum, see if I can get in there. But I'd like to share that work, and it's a good way for the work to continue. Allow me to introduce to you someone who really thinks outside of the box, Mr. Joe Babcock. He's a San Francisco-based photographer, and I got to profile Joe Babcock at an event and met him when he was touting this book, and this is called The Invented Camera. Joe Babcock is a San Francisco-based artist, photographer, and he's also a sculptor. And what Joe does is that he turns objects into pinhole cameras, and then he photographs a subject related to the item that he turned into a camera. Case in point, right here on the cover of his book, this is his VW van, camper van, that he turned into a camera obscura. So what he's doing is he's taking a piece of luggage, he's putting film inside the luggage, turning it into a pinhole camera, drilling a hole in it, and then he's photographing a Greyhound bus depot, linking the two objects together. I know when I began this program, I said that, you know, it starts with cameras, then it comes to the photographer, and then it goes to the final work that you do. So here he is shooting with a gas can turned into a pinhole camera. And what do you photograph with a gas can turned into a pinhole camera? You photograph a Texaco gas station, of course. Here's a Snowdrift, which is a company that produces paint, and he takes the name of the company and he associates it with a snowy day, and I believe that's his van parked over in the corner. So the Invented Camera, this is where you're taking not a ton of copy, but simply letting the photographs really do the talking, and they just say so much. I like to always point out Joe Babcock because he really, I thought was brilliant, really thought outside the box there. Now, a photo essay also can be a blog post. It could be a short series of images. So I want to talk to you guys about The Tuscan Neighbor, which is a blog post and social media post I did telling the story of Justino, our neighbor in Tuscany. Justino is in his 90 years old. I've known him for quite some time. He is he has a plot of land behind our land, and bunch of olive trees and tomatoes and vegetables, and he lives a couple of miles up in Cortona, and he comes down into the lowland and does his farming. He's a very gentle, very polite, nice guy. You will notice that is a pack of cigarettes in his top pocket there. Justino, I think it was 2017, we came down and we didn't see much work going on the farm, and I really kind of feared that Justino had passed. But one morning I got up and I heard chink, 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 and what it was Justino tilling the ground and cleaning it up, and he had survived, and he was going. He actually, at this point, he had gotten into a car accident, and he wasn't allowed to drive anymore, so he had his nephews coming and picking him up. Photograph on the right is Justino taking a little break. He'd smoke a cigarette, take a break, and then relentlessly get back to work. And you can see how overgrown everything is. Justino's got a lot of work ahead of him. After a long day of work, he would trudge off, get into a car, go back up to Cortona, only to come back the next day and continue work. Justino put in a good hard day's worth of work going on there. We saw Justino in 2021, 2020. It was post-COVID time. This is Justino up in Cortona. So he'd spend the weekends. He would be always a fixture in the town of Cortona, and he would sit in different places across the squares, and I always love to capture Justino in these candid moments. Notice again, smoking. He did not get the memo about the smoking. Unfortunately, we learned we went back and in the summer, the following summer, and Justino had passed on. He had a really bad winter, and that was it for Justino. So another little side project on this one I presented on Instagram, and this is kind of funny in a morbid way. This is what I like to call a mini photo essay presented on the Instagrams. It's a photo essay done in 4 shots. So what happens in Italy is that when someone passes away, they take a death notice and they paste the death notice up onto this framed wall segment, and that's where you can go and find out who's passed on and where the ceremony is going to be for them and who in the community. Because these old guys, they're not using the internet. They're using flip phones at best. So I've always been morbidly attracted to the death notices of Italy. It's the last hurrah you're going to get, a poster with your name on it announcing your death. So I'm coming up into the main road going into Cortona, and I see this van pulls up in a spot that's like not a regular spot, and the van, the door slams open, and this guy gets out, and he's got a death poster in his hand, and he's got a bucket, and he's got a brush, and I deduce what he's going to do. He's going to put up this death notice for poor Mario Buono, who has passed on. So what do? I follow him. I follow him really closely, and just get a nice close-up there of what he's going to do, and then follow him to the wall where all the death notices are up, and there he is. He tore down the oldest one, and he put his glue in there, and he's going to slap Mario Buono up on the wall, announcing his death. So also pay close attention to the guy to his right. I love that guy. Italians age so well. They're so classy. Anyway, this is my little mini photo essay on the death notices. It was very impromptu. I just happened to, of course, have my camera with me. I was aware, spotted the guy, that truck, and I said I'm just going to follow him quickly. The whole photo shoot probably took about 2.5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. I don't think he ever noticed that I was shooting him. That was really tons of fun. So there we go. Let's talk about what does it take to make a photo project, or what I like to say as the sauce for a photo essay. It's steps for the work to resonate in quality and exposure. So these are going to be 8 steps I'm going to give you. Let's do it. It's steps for the work to resonate in quality and exposure. So I'm kind of keying in on quality and exposure, and of course quality is subjective, but it does mean meaningful work, good quality work. Focusing into a project or short form project essay will help you do that. Also, I was going to show you, talk about a little bit of exposure, how we get it out there. I think that's very important as well. Because if a beautiful photograph is made and no one looks at it, does it matter? I mean, we got to get our work out there, right? Okay, so I got 8 steps for you. We're going to start on number 1. Decide what the story and the subjects are going to be. This is like basic stuff, but you really got to understand, what is the narrative? What is the story? What are we going after? We have to quantify that. We have to put that into one sentence. We also have to understand what our subjects are going to be. In this case, the Seattle suspects, it was the suspects that was the subject. The story was them. Research and study. Preparation is so important. You have to research and study. You have to understand exactly what you're getting into, where you're going. Now, when I say research and study, it can be simple things like I'm trying to put together Mount St. Michel and the Normandy beaches. So I did a little map quest. I understand it's about a 3-hour difference, sort of a triangle from Paris to Mount St. Michel to Normandy is like a 3-hour range. But you have to kind of go in there and study that out. You also have to do research. I have an extensive library on World War II that I used to understand the places that I was going to and photographing in Normandy. So you have to research, you have to study. That's going to be very important. That's a key thing. If you don't research and study, then the pictures really won't have any narrative behind them. So you have to understand where you're going and what you're doing. You also have to plan out the project and commit your ideas to the little black book. Now, a little black book is key. This is something that will fit in your camera bag, and a little black book lets you put down your ideas as they come to you, and then you can kind of go back later on. It's just a notebook. It's nothing fancy. Don't use voice recorders and don't do digital. Just have a little book that you can write out. Also, a little book like this lets you jot phone numbers down, lets you jot addresses down really quick. This is, I have like my notes on Normandy. For a country so close to England, I'd expect a little more English to be spoken. I'm having a hard time. I speak barely any French. Ordering food is a trial. Ordering a glass of wine seems kind of messed up. Just my thoughts. The Normandy, blah, 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 blah. So I go over that. At dinner last night was a feast. Potatoes au gratin with jambon, fish amandine. So these are all little notes, so that's just some of that. But I also have this like I got the sand when I was able to get the sand. That was really important. As I moved on and started producing some of the work that was here's the Kickstarter information. So having the little black book is really important, and if you know me, you know that I'm a Pink Floyd fan, and I always call it the little black book because black, but in Pink Floyd The Wall, Pinky puts his poems in a book, and he's got a little black book with me poems in it. So I always recommend you got to write down and commit your ideas to the book, and then really plan out the project. I mean, once you plan out the project, here's like the car rental numbers, reservation numbers. I mean, this is all, the whole book is right there. I'm still using it. I made entries into the book. I made entries in last week as I'm working on the prints for the new edition, the Adepticon edition. Keep a book. Keep yourself organized. You'll thank me later. Photograph. Get every angle. Keep notes. Go do your job as a photographer. When I say every angle, you need to get behind the subject, in front of the subject, on the side of the subject. You need to see things in the morning, in the evening, in the middle of the day. You need to get into the whole thing, 360 degrees, really make those photographs. Once you get your photographs done, you should create work in a consistent style. So if you turn on a picture mode, black and white, like you notice, we're black and white right now. That's intentional. It's part of the style. It's part of my shtick. This is being consistent. So your work that you show should be all color, all black and white. The angle should be similar. composition, elements, things that you can view with style, which I have a large class. That's my biggest contribution in photography, is really how to achieve style in your photographs. So you want to create work in a consistent style. Then you want to make a strong edit, and this should be done yourself. Now, I say a strong edit, your first pass of edit should be like, ditch the things that are out of focus, ditch the bad compositions, ditch the bad exposures. Get that out right away. Start to go into it. Identify your 5-star photos, your 4-star photos. Get in there and make an edit. But the key is to ask for editing help. This could be a friend, this could be a network, this could be a partner, this could be boyfriend, girlfriend, this could be a neighbor, whatever it is. Get somebody to look over your pictures and pick their favorite ones. Get an outside view on your edit. That's really important. So start with yourself, cut it down, show it to somebody. I also recommend very highly making prints. I'm a big fan of making prints. I really can't understand a photograph until I make prints of it. So if you shoot, say, very heavily, like let's just say you go to Norway and you're going to photograph some of the night skies and the aurora borealis and some Viking stuff. Now let's say that you come home with 1,200 shots. By the way, when I did my work for Normandy, I had 24 shots on the 8x10 camera. That was a very heavy edit right done there. But with digital, we tend to shoot very heavily. So you go through your edit and narrow it down to around, say, 40 to 60 images. Now, ultimately, we want to get down to 8 to 15 images. If you're doing a book, you can go with about 24 to 30 images. If you're doing a photo essay, you could knock it down to like 4 or 5, maybe 6 images, tops. Don't go beyond that for like a smaller photo essay. You saw those examples I showed you of Justino, the Tuscan neighbor, and the death notice. Those are 4-image stories. So go out and get machine prints. Go out and get prints of all this. If you get 60 prints, get 64 by 6 prints, 5 by 7 prints. It's going to run you a whooping 22, 29 cents a picture these days online. You'll be able to lay out all those pictures and then start to do pagination, do some ordering. I also like to take this wall behind me here, and when I'm working on a project, I'll put the images up, I'll tape them to the wall. So make a strong edit, get it out there. I recommend, again, printing on that. And then you can add text from your research that you did on number 2. So at that point, a book that you have or some research that you did online, basically we're going back to our number 2, the research and study. And then we can add text and integrate that into the equation. Now, this isn't a writing class. I'm a photographer, and I happen to be a pretty decent writer. It's because I'm a good reader. Maybe writing isn't your strong point. I'm sorry it's not your strong point, but if you continue to write, you will become a better writer. And what I recommend is that you don't need to write a lot. You really don't. A sentence or 2 for a photograph should do the trick. But don't forget, a well-executed photograph says 1,000 words. So if you add a sentence, would say 16 words, then your photograph now is 116 words. That's pretty good. So don't go too crazy with the writing. Read more, look at examples, and you'll get a cadence for it, and try to be objective as well. You also have to decide on how this essay is going to be shown. Is it going to be produced in a book? Is it going to be on a website? Is this being done for, let's say you're working for a local news organization or a bigger news organization, how you show that work. This is key, and I'm a big fan of the printer, and I want to also just go out to you guys right now that printing used to be really difficult. The printers, the dialog boxes, color calibration has gotten all so easy. I love my Epson printers. I love making prints. It's so easy to look at a print as opposed to looking at something that's buried in a digital archive. So I think that's really key. So how do we continue? What's next? Well, you've learned how to make the photo essay. Now we have to find some interesting stuff to go photograph. I would like to invite everybody for our Milan trip. This is in coordination with Steve Simon and Ugo Che. This is taking place April 21st to 26th. And I want to say that Milan is a very special place to go visit And why is Milan a special place to go visit is that the first thing is that the work that you're going to get from Milan is going to be like work you haven't seen before. Milan is a under-photographed city, where Rome is an over-photographed city. But Milan is truly beautiful, and it's also the capital of fashion and industry in Italy. So you get guys in suits with thin ties on scooters, zipping to work. There's a phenomenon there called the Shura. The Shura are these wealthy older women that go about their daily business wearing mink coats and Birkin bags. The architecture is very unique. You've got brutalism. You've got a beautiful castle that's in the middle of the town, the Castle Sforza. How cool is that? You have to have your own castle. There's also two famous buildings, the Torre Velasca and the Bosco Verticale. The Bosco Verticale is a skyscraper that has trees growing out of it. So cool. So it's got great, strong cafe culture. People are really just very friendly, and it's a really interesting place. I highly recommend it. It has the old and the new. We've got a new tram and we've got a vintage tram. Even just riding around the trams is a ton of fun. So that's what I would say as far as what's next is join us on a workshop. Stick with Suspect Photography. You can subscribe below, as they say on the internet. I swear I would never do that, but I did it. And we're going to grow together. So I want you to thank you very much for watching. And if you have any questions, shoot it down in the comments. I love answering questions. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Make good photos. Hold on a second. We're going to end this with a picture. Are you guys ready? We're doing it. 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 Gotta love a house of blood.